Dad, I just got off the plane. I'm getting on the bus soon. I should be home in a couple hours.
Okay. Karina, are you doing okay? I mean, I know this whole situation isn't okay, but are you doing any better since I spoke to you on the phone this morning?
Yeah. I was just kinda regretting going to a college so far away from home. I knew Mom's heart wasn't good, but I still chose to go to a college halfway across the country. I wish I could go back in time and have stayed close to home.
There's no reason for you to regret anything. You worked hard to get into that college. It's been your dream for so long. You made the right decision for your life.
But if I'd have stayed close to home, I could have seen Mom more often. I wasn't there for her when she died. I feel like I let her down.
That's not true at all. Your mom was so proud of you when you got into that college. She understood why you left, and she wasn't upset that you weren't here when she went to the hospital. She always wanted what was best for you. You know that. Your mom would have been upset if you had stayed close to home and hadn't followed your dream.
I guess. So, how are you doing? I know this has got to be tough for you, too. Are you okay?
I'm handling it better than I expected. That could just be because the reality of it hasn't fully hit me yet, though.
I know what you mean. I'm still finding it hard to believe that Mom passed away.
Yeah, for sure. But I've got to go get talking to the funeral home and to Pastor Bowman and see if he's available to do the funeral service. I've got a lot to keep me busy. I'll barely have any time to think about it. So, I should be fine for a while.
Yeah. Don't push yourself too hard. When I get home, I'll help you out as much as I can.
Thanks, honey. Have a safe trip home, okay? Pastor Bowman, thanks for getting back to me. I'm sorry we haven't spoken much. I never really went to church with my wife. I'm really glad you're available to do the funeral service. I'm sure it would mean a lot to her. Don't worry about it. Your wife was a regular at my services. I don't really feel comfortable discussing money with a pastor, but how much money does it cost for you to do a funeral service? My parents died when I was young, so I didn't handle any of the finances. I don't know how much anything costs when it comes to a funeral. This is all a first for me. I understand. Don't worry about it. But please, do me a favor and don't go telling other pastors what I charge, okay? It's supposed to be an expression of your appreciation for the church and for my service. I understand. With the rental of the church for the service, the funeral service, and the burial service, it's usually about $2,000. I see. Funerals aren't cheap, are they? Your wife was a regular at my church, so I'm definitely taking that into account. And the fact that you mentioned you'd be making a donation to the church in your wife's name as well. As you know, a donation to the church is an expression of gratitude for its services and for the community. And your wife has been coming to this church for many years now. As for the funeral, I pride myself on giving a good service and making the whole process as easy for the family as possible. I appreciate that. Thank you. And don't worry, your wife is in a much better place now. I assure you, she's up in heaven now, looking down and smiling. Thanks. I'm sure she is too. So, I understand visitation is tomorrow at the funeral home, and the funeral service will be held the day after, here at the church. I'll be here if you need anything before then, and if you ever want to talk, feel free to contact me. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm sure I'll have more questions before this is all over. I'll message you if anything comes up. Have a good evening, Pastor Bowman. Karina, where are you? I want you home right now.
No way!
You ruined your mom's funeral. What were you thinking? I want you to apologize to Pastor Bowman right now.
I'm never doing that. I hope that idiot goes to hell.
How could you say something like that? Your mom's been going to his church for years, and he was nice enough to agree to do her funeral service. Do you have any idea what you did today?
I don't care. That idiot was laughing at Mom.
Huh?
He said he was glad she finally croaked.
What are you talking about? Why would he say something like that?
Dad, how much money were you planning on giving him?
For the service?
For everything.
That's not really any of your concern.
Dad, it's important. Before the service started, I heard him talking on the phone with someone. He was telling them how he was getting a large amount of money so he'd be able to pay off his entire debt. He seemed really happy about it.
What?
It's true. He was glad Mom died. I heard him say so. He said he knew a few people from his church that were about to die soon, and he'd be making lots of money from it. I didn't want anyone like that leading the funeral service for my mom.
He really said stuff like that? Your mom's been going to his church for so many years. Are you sure you're not mistaken? He's a pastor, after all. He wouldn't want people to die?
It doesn't matter how long he's known Mom. It seems he's just that kind of person. Do you think I'd do something like that at anyone's funeral if I didn't have a good reason?
So that's why you were yelling at him and saying all those terrible things to him. I'm sorry. I had no idea what had happened, and I got mad at you.
It's okay. I tried to hold my tongue until the funeral was over, but it just disgusted me so much how he seemed so happy that my mom had died, and that he was going to be getting so much extra money because of it. And then when he started saying all those nice things about Mom during the service, and pretending like he'd really miss her, I knew he was lying through his teeth, and I couldn't control myself anymore.
I understand. I'll have a talk with Pastor Bowman.
Okay. I'm sorry. I guess I probably made him pretty angry too, huh?
Well, yeah. He stormed out the back of the church just a few seconds after you stormed out at the front. He never stayed to finish the service.
I had no idea. I'm really sorry, Dad.
Don't worry about it. After hearing your side of the story, I don't think I would have wanted him to continue if he really felt that way about your mom's death. Just come back home, Karina. Your aunts and uncles are really worried about you.
Okay. Tell everyone I'm really sorry for ruining the funeral.
Like I said, don't worry about it. I know your mom will forgive you too. But from now on, please talk with me about things before you jump into action.
Sorry. I was just so filled with emotions. And I knew the funeral was tough for you already. I wanted to tell you what Pastor Bowman had said, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I thought I could hold it in until the service was over, but...
I know exactly what you mean, honey. You didn't want anyone like that standing up there talking about your mom.
Yeah.
Well, all our relatives are here, so maybe I'll talk with them about this and see where we should go from here. Just come back home as quick as you can, okay? Your whole family's here. There's no reason you should be alone now. Pastor Bowman, I see you didn't go back to your house after the incident. I just went there to speak with you. Mr. Schultz, I feel I should apologize for the way I acted today. I shouldn't have left before the funeral service was finished. But I will expect a considerable donation to the church for the way your daughter treated me today. I'm going to be out of town for the rest of the day, so I'll expect you to come by tomorrow with your payment and offering. I understand. But there's just one thing I need to ask you first. What is it, my child? I heard you were really happy when you heard my wife died, weren't you? My daughter said she heard you say that when you were talking to someone on the phone before the funeral. What are you talking about? I would never be happy that one of my flock has passed away. She heard you say, "I'm glad she finally croaked," as you were laughing and telling the person on the other end. Does it make you happy when someone from your church dies? You seem to be excited to get the extra money from doing a funeral service, as well as the possibility of getting something left to the church in the deceased's will. Are you going to believe something like that just because your daughter said it? Yeah, I am. My daughter would never lie to me, especially not about anything like this. She has nothing to gain from it. My wife has been going to your church for a long time now, but you can bet that you'll never see anyone else from my family there ever again. Nobody would want a person who gets excited when people die to lead a funeral service for them, let alone preach to them. If that's what you believe, I rarely saw you in church before, so I wasn't expecting to see you start now anyway. But you still owe me for the service today, and you already agreed to make a donation to the church in your wife's name. You're not a man who would lie to a servant of God, now, are you? Don't you worry about that. I am a man of my word. Then I'll expect payment quite soon. I did what I agreed to do. Just relax. I'll pay you. Mr. Schultz, what's the meaning of this? This isn't the correct amount of money. I told you the service would be $2,000, but you only paid me $200. What's the issue? You didn't complete the job. You left in the middle of it. I think what I paid you is more than fair. No, this is ridiculous. I told you exactly how much it would cost you. You agreed to it. Yeah, I agreed to a particular price for the funeral service. But we never got a funeral service. And what about the donation to the church in your wife's name? You must have misunderstood. That was included in the $200 I gave you. I paid $100 for the 15 minutes of funeral service you did, which is quite respectable for 15 minutes of work. And I said I'd make a considerable donation to the church in my wife's name. She usually put $10 in the church offering every week. I donated 10 times what she usually gives you. 10 times your regular pay is quite considerable, don't you think? I doubt she would want me to donate even that much, seeing as you were so glad she died. Look, considering you just lost your wife, I'm going to be nice when I tell you this. I agreed to do that funeral service for you. I canceled my plans that day for you. You have done nothing for me or this church the entire time I've known you. You should be honored that I even agreed to do your wife's service in the first place. It's a real shame that someone like you gets put in charge of a church in the first place. I know families who have been going to that church for generations, and now someone like you comes in and takes over. I don't care if you like me or not. You don't even go to church. You should care, because I've talked to the people in the neighborhood about you, and they've told me a lot of things. You don't do a damn thing at the church other than your Sunday service. And even then, rumors are going around that it isn't uncommon for you to show up to them hungover. I hear you've even got a part-time job outside of town to try to bring in more money for yourself. Maybe if you put more effort into your sermons and more time into the church and its members, you might get more people coming to church and more people donating. Why do you care? It's not like you've ever come. You've got no right to tell me how to run my church. I guess you're right. I really don't care what happens to you from here on out. But I'll never forgive you for disrespecting my wife and her death. I don't need your forgiveness, but you'd better pay me what you owe me. How do you figure I owe you anything else? Huh? I paid you $100 for 15 minutes of work, and there's no law stating how much a donation to the church has to be. You ruined my wife's funeral completely, so I'm not sure you'd even win in court if you wanted to take it that far. I really don't think you have any right to charge me for anything else. You can't do this to me. You said you were going to give a large donation to the church. I was counting on that money. Pay me what you owe me. I think you need to go back and study how a real pastor is supposed to act. Who exactly ordained you in the first place? You can't force someone to give you a bigger donation just because you don't like the amount. How is a church supposed to survive without donations? How am I supposed to do my service without more donations? I'm guessing caring more about your followers and not showing up to church hungover might help. But then again, I don't know a whole lot about church or religion. But I do know that most of the people in your congregation are quite old. You don't seem to be attracting anyone new, and your congregation is dying off. How many times do I have to tell you? That's why things are so tough for the church right now. The people in this town are just like you. Nobody cares about the church or wants to help. Church is just another part of the service industry. If you offered a decent service, you'd get more people coming. I'm surprised you have anyone left who wants to go to your church, seeing as you hope for everyone who goes to it to die. Shut up. I'm doing the best I can with my circumstances. Show some respect. Look, now that my wife's gone, my family has nothing to do with you anymore. And from what I've heard from others in the neighborhood, a lot of the people who still go to your church are considering leaving soon. You need to take a long look at yourself and what happened yesterday, and think about how you want to proceed from there. Okay, I see your point. But just hold on a second. How about this? How about you just pay me another $800? That's $1,000 less than we originally agreed on. I know your wife had a life insurance policy, right? $800 is nothing to you. How about that? You're still only thinking of yourself, aren't you? Don't push this any further. I've asked around, and $2,000 to have a pastor hold a funeral service in his church is absurd. I don't care what you've gotten yourself into. It's not my responsibility to pay off your debts. I don't want anything to do with you ever again. Look, I wasn't happy that your wife died. I'd have been happy with anyone dying. It was nothing personal. I just needed the extra money doing a funeral service would give me. Then maybe you shouldn't have been talking about money on your cell phone with the family of the deceased so close by. All of this is because you don't care about anyone else other than yourself. You think just because I'm a pastor, I don't worry about money? Money is the only thing I can think about. Saying something like that is an insult to all other pastors, don't you think? Not everyone thinks about money the same way as you. I thought pastors are supposed to study the Bible and actually try to follow its teachings. Doesn't that mean not going out drinking and gambling away what money you do have? What are you saying? I've heard all about your debts and how you spend your money. The church treasurer told me all about what you do with the church's money. You go out to restaurants and bars all the time, drinking and gambling all the church's money away. That's why you had to get a part-time job, and why you're in so much debt. And why you think you can charge $2,000 for a 30-minute funeral service that you leave in the middle of. What I do with my private life and my wage is none of your business. And if you didn't like the price I quoted you, you didn't have to agree to it. I suppose that's true. I just didn't expect a pastor to lie to me about the typical cost. And if the church goes under, it's going to be entirely your fault. So, if you don't want that to happen, maybe you should be a little more careful with how you use its money and how you treat its people. I can't believe this. Your wife died and all I got from it was a measly $200. I had no idea you were so cheap. I'm not cheap. We're going to have a proper funeral for my wife. But this time, we're getting a funeral home to do it. I'm repaying for everything. I don't care how much it costs. And the only reason I don't want to give you another cent is because of what you said in front of my daughter. I don't care if you knew she was there or not. You've got nobody to blame for this but yourself. Like you said, a donation is an expression of gratitude, right? After that, rumors spread about what had happened at my wife's funeral, and more importantly, why. Because of that, a lot of the people who had been on the fence about not going to Pastor Bowman's church anymore finally did quit. The church had been in debt for quite a while, and now there was no way to recover from it. There was no choice for it but to close down. I hear the church is trying to get a new pastor to come in from another area to take it over and try to rebuild its following. I really don't know what's going to happen to Pastor Bowman and all the debt he had built up. But I know that he left town pretty quickly after the church closed, and nobody has heard from him since. I understand that pastors are people too, and that they have private lives and aren't required to live in poverty or anything. but they should at least have the decency to not make light of the dead, especially not in front of the deceased's family. That's clearly not what happened this time, though. Pastor Bowman wasn't taking his duties as a pastor seriously enough, and he didn't seem to care about other people's feelings. And for us, we had my wife's funeral redone at a funeral home. It was tough on our family and friends, getting everyone back together again for such a sad occasion. My daughter did the eulogy this time, and she apologized to her mom about what had happened before. I don't think she needed to do that. I know she did what she did out of love. I think my wife was probably looking down on her, smiling, proud of how much her daughter has grown up. Somehow, I think this whole experience has actually helped my daughter and I deal with our loss a little better. My daughter is still going to be studying far from home, so I'm going to be by myself a lot. But because of that, my daughter and I have agreed that I'll go out to visit her every month. It's going to be hard getting our lives back to normal with my wife gone, but I have a feeling that she's going to be looking out for us from now on, and that things will be just fine.
Thanks for watching! If you like this video, please press the like button. See you next time!